Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Steve again, Harmless Rebel. Gonna do a metal update slash what's spinning, I guess. Been on a bit of a Black Sabbath kick lately. It kind of started with the first couple records I'm gonna show. Honestly, it started when Rhino reissued the Black Sabbath record, because I want to say I don't think I've gone more than a couple days since then without listening to Black Sabbath in one form or another, and I've just happened to run across some pretty cool stuff between that release and now. I think one of my other recent videos, I showed a bunch of original or early Sabbath pressings that I had picked up, and there's a really cool one that finally got released to vinyl recently, that's Black Sabbath adjacent. Then I've also picked up some really nice original pressings recently as well. So that's led to me spinning a bunch of Black Sabbath as well. But the first thing is the Tony Iommi, the 1996 Depth Sessions, which is Iommi and Glenn Hughes. This was released back in, I don't know, early 2000s. And I've had it on CD for a number of years. I've always wanted it on vinyl. This is really good. I really dig this record. But you've got Iommi. This was a October, what do they call it? One of the Rocktober releases. For some reason, none of my stores got them. And one of my local stores was able to order a bunch of them. I could have bought it online, but the store that I bought it from actually usually gives a little bit better deal than I can find online. So he went ahead and ordered a copy for me. Fantastic. And then also at his shop recently, actually both of these, I recently picked up both of these records, maybe a week apart. He probably got them both in the same day, but he's one of those guys that when he buys a collection of metal, because he doesn't get a lot of metal in, he'll just put out a few pieces at a time. So it's one of those shops where I check there at least once a week to see if he's put anything out. The first one, going back to the original Black Sabbath, I wish I would have had this when I did my comparison video, but this is the NIMS pressing from, this is an early 80s pressing. This one was an 82 pressing, but this thing sounds fantastic. So we got an early 80s NIMS right here. I thought it was 70s for some reason. I don't know why I didn't notice that it actually says 82 on the back here. But really killer UK pressing. It doesn't sound as good as the Vertigo of this, but it sounds pretty good. I really dug this. I might compare the, maybe not for a video, maybe for a video. I want to compare this to my first US pressing of this, though. Thinking back, I feel like this one sounded a little bit better, but that was just kind of going off of memory, which doesn't always help, which isn't always accurate. But these NIMS pressings are really good, and from what I understand, some of the NIMS pressings, and I don't think this is one of them, but some of the NIMS pressings share the plates with the Vertigo swirls. So if you run across those, they're worth grabbing. Most of the NIMS stuff that I've bought does sound really good. The couple that I can think of that don't sound good weren't the best sounding records to begin with. So, you know, it is what it is. Next up, so in one of my recent videos, I showed a first club pressing of Master of Reality. And then about a week and a half ago, I found a first US pressing of Master of Reality. This one is, I want to say it's a Terre Haute pressing, if I remember correctly. It's VG. There's one spot where you get a little tick like 3 times, but other than that, this thing sounds fantastic. I've never thought this was a great sounding record to begin. It is one of my favorites. It's Children of the Grave is one of my favorite songs. This whole thing is fantastic. The whole B-side, you know, everybody talks about Sweet Leaf and Children of the Grave, and those are both great songs, and they're favorites of mine. But the B-side with Lord of This World with Solitude, I've really been digging Solitude and Into the Void. Just really killer, though. Again, this is one I want to compare to the club pressing. I want to see if they're the same, because I found generally the club pressings aren't as good as the straight up pressings from the labels. Speaking of that, this is a great example of it. So I went to Second and Charles. I've been finding some crazy stuff at Second and Charles lately. I didn't go to them for years because I was never finding anything. And the last couple times, and it's not just one, it's two separate Second and Charles on opposite sides of the city. There's one by my work and one by my house. And each time I've gone to each one of them, the last two visits, they've only had 2 or 3 metal records, but it's really high quality stuff that I've been looking for years. I've found stuff that I have never seen in the wild before, or haven't seen since these records came out back in the 80s and 90s. So this first one I actually have a Columbia House pressing of it. And I always thought that the Columbia House pressing sounded so-so. And I just assumed that they all sounded like that. Well, this is the original label pressing of it. And as soon as I put this on, it was a complete 180. This thing sounds fantastic. The Columbia House pressing is it's just absolute garbage compared to this one. But this is Eternal Idol from Black Sabbath. Really, I love the Tony Martin era stuff. I've talked about this before when I showed Tear a while back, and I've talked about it a number of times with this record. When Black Sabbath's come up, and I brought up the Tony Martin era. Super underrated. It's a different sound. One thing I love about Black Sabbath is it was always Black Sabbath, but whenever there was a different singer, the sound changed, and it was real specific to that singer. Like the Tony Martin era albums all sound real cohesive. The Dio albums sound cohesive. The Ozzy albums sound cohesive, but they don't sound cohesive between singers. And I've talked about this before. I love the Dio era. I don't like Dio singing the Ozzy songs. His voice just wasn't right for it. I know some people disagree. Tony Martin was the one exception, though. I've heard Tony Martin do Ozzy era, Dio era, and obviously his era, and I like all of it. He is a really super underrated as a singer, which is sad. And these Tony Martin era albums are underrated too. But anyway, Eternal Idol. And this is one, I've only had one copy before. It had a bad warp that I was never able to get out of it, and I ended up giving it to somebody for like $10 who thought he could fix it. But this is an original US pressing of Headless Cross. Another super underrated album. This thing is fantastic. You had Cozy Powell on this one. Tony Martin. Just a fantastic album. Always loved the artwork here. It's just so in line with the Black Sabbath theme and imagery. And what's funny about these, and I just mentioned it before, anytime I buy reissues of stuff, I had been looking for a nice copy of this for years, and this and the Tear album were the reason that I bought the recent Tony Martin era box set. And since buying that, I've now found 2 of the 4 albums in that box set, original pressings of it. Had I had really nice copies already of these 2, like I said, I did have this, but I didn't like the sound of it. So had I not had these really nice copies of these 2, I wouldn't have bought the box. I would have waited for the single albums to come out, which they have. So I'll probably end up selling that and then just buying a copy of the Tear album. And then the other one, I can't think of the 4th album that's in there. I can think of the picture, but I can't think of the album name. Cross Purposes. Yeah, for Cross Purposes, I'll probably, or I'm sorry, not Cross Purposes, I have that one. Yeah, so for Forbidden, I'll either just buy the reissue or just stick with the bootleg that I have, because it sounds pretty good too. And then last but not least, from the Black Sabbath, Past Lives. We were talking about this on Patrick's stream the other night. I don't remember, maybe John brought it up. But he mentioned this, and I pulled it out to show, and then ended up listening to it. This is basically a live bootleg. This is taken from a remastered bootleg, at least according to the write-up that I read when this came out. And I think this was another one that came out, I want to say, in maybe the early 2010s. and then they released it to vinyl on 2016. This is not a great sounding live album. It sounds like a cleaned up bootleg, but still worth having. These were really nice. I didn't have really nice original US pressings of either of these. I do have... No, I don't. That's one of them. This is the one Australian pressing I'm missing too. So a lot of my AC/DC stuff I got rid of when I thinned out my collection like 10 years ago. All of my stuff that wasn't in like near mint or better condition, I got rid of. I shouldn't say near mint. VG plus condition. A lot of it was just, I had it for at least a decade. It was used and scratched up when I bought it. I had played the heck out of it. So a lot of my AC/DC stuff got taken out. And now, I don't know if you guys have seen the resale market for original AC/DC pressings, but I was shocked when I put these in Discogs. These are going for like $40 and up now. It's crazy. But these are both first US pressings. I think I paid $20 a piece for them, and they both looked unplayed, but we got a super clean copy of High Voltage. And then a super clean copy of Power Age. I always said Power Age. I have some people that say Powerage. I'm curious what AC/DC calls it, but it's always been Power Age to me. Fantastic. These things sound amazing. Let's see what else. These I might have shown this one in a video recently. I get confused because a lot of this stuff I'll show and we'll talk about on the different streams that I'm on. And I forget whether I've shown it in the video or not. So that's why I kind of think back to myself. But I don't know. Oh, I know what it was. I was going through my CDs. I'm getting rid of a lot of my CDs. I was getting ready for a record show. And I ended up looking up some of the rarer CDs to see what they were going for online. Because you'd be surprised what some of the CDs are worth, especially the thrash. A lot of the metal, but especially the thrash stuff. I made like $500 last week on like four or five CDs. Stuff that I didn't even know, like stuff that I bought for like $3 or $4 used, or in the cutout bins back in the day. Like the Sacred Reichs, I had original Sacred Reichs. Those things are going for like $100 a piece, the CDs. It was crazy. And I've got original pressings on vinyl. I don't pull out the CDs anymore. Anyway, Dirty Looks, Turn of the Screw was one of them. I had this on CD. I was looking it up, and I was looking at my Discogs, and it didn't show me having it on vinyl, and I was sure I did. So I went to my collection, and sure enough, this was the one of the big Dirty Looks albums I was missing. So and then I just happened to see it like a week later. This thing was pretty much mint. It was in the plastic, again cut out, but looked unplayed, and I think I paid under $10 for it. So just crazy. Next up, just pulled this one out again to listen to it. Super underrated. This may be my favorite John Corabi release. It would be between this and the self-titled Motley Crue. I really dig both of them, but this is the reissue of Let 'Em Scream from a couple of years ago. Let It Scream from the Scream, sorry. I think, 2021. This was done through Lindsley Records. Unfortunately, I don't know if mine came with a little seam split at the bottom. Like, it seems like 50 or 60% of these arrived damaged to people who ordered them. And, we paid a premium because they're signed by John Corabi and the corner, but they put them in the regular thin mailers, left them in there loosely. They didn't even pack it tight, and they put no stiffeners in there. So I was really worried. Like, I was seeing videos where all four corners were bent and crushed in. It was like they were totally destroyed. I kind of lucked out. I remembered mine being in worse condition. I just got like a little 1/2-inch seam split on mine. But still, if you guys haven't heard this, there may still be reissues of the unsigned version available. If you run across this, buy it. It's just a fantastic record. And then last but not least, this is just an upgrade. I've had a copy of this for, I don't know, at least a decade. My copy was pretty well played and abused, though, and this one was in pretty much near mint condition, and I got this one for really cheap as well. But probably the third favorite from his solo albums, you've got Tattooed Millionaire from Bruce Dickinson. So that's it, guys. I hope everybody's doing good. I'll see you soon. Take care, VC.